course, week 3. We are here with the amazing Jonathan. I'm so excited to see everyone. I see already so many people were in the chat, even though we haven't started. Guys, I love this dedication. I see Gulbaz, I see Cloves, I see Haley Kappas, I see Joe. Joe saying, good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you guys. Where are you guys joining in from? Also, we have a poll going. Would you rather live one life for 1,000 years or 10 lives for 100 years each? I'm going to ask Jonathan his perspective on what he thinks. Jonathan, how are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you very much. Such a fancy transition. Hope everyone's good. What would I prefer? What was it? One life, 1,000 years, or 10 for less years? Is that right?
10 lives for 100 years each. So you are living a total of 1,000 years regardless, but would you live one life or
Yeah.
10 lives?
Also, it's an excellent question. Could I put those 100 years throughout history and into the future, or is it they're still in
Oh.
sequence exactly? So the moment I die, I'm starting
Ooh.
another one.
But that means like you need to know exactly like where to put it. So do you have godlike knowledge? Okay, right now, one life for 1,000 years is winning by 74%. So a lot of people are choosing for 1,000 years. But let me provide a counterpoint on
Yeah.
what I would select 10 years.
Okay.
Number one, people say living an eternity is actually not a blessing, it's a curse. Guys, have you guys seen any movies? All movies where the character gets granted an eternal life, like all of their loved ones constantly pass away. You're going to have to see so many of your loved ones die. Number two, if you're a
You're
criminal,
invincible.
no,
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 but you're
no.
invincible, right?
But
Because if you know that you're not going to die,
mhm.
then you can just go and you can run into fires and save people, right? Because
But due to age, like you're the only one who's living for 1,000 years. So you are, all of your family's gonna die, your kids are gonna die before you. That's gonna be so sad. And also, like, imagine if you have committed a crime, then the police would be chasing you. And because you have one identity and one face that doesn't change, you are going to be chased until the end of your time, but you have 10 lives. So let's say you've like committed some crime, you are going to die, and in the next life you'll get a new slate and you have all this knowledge so you can live your life accordingly. Oh my gosh, I'm so rude, Jonathan. I didn't even ask to explain yourself. Can you introduce yourself?
yeah. I still want to argue my. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. I'm Jono, and I'm a creative developer and make effects.
And a
For
person who will live for 1,000 years, guys. So write it down. Write it down.
hey, look, if I'm given the option, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because imagine you're in the middle of a project,
Uh-huh.
you're really excited,
You
you've got
zoned
everything you
in.
need for it.
Yep, yep.
Let's say, for example, you figured out something really cool in Effect House. You found the lerp
Uh-huh.
node, for
Uh-huh.
example, right? And it's amazing. You're
Uh-huh.
mind blown, right? 100 years,
Yeah.
you're off. Whereas more time, you're suddenly like, I've got 900 years to explore what I can do with a lerp node.
Uh-huh.
Big brain stuff.
Maybe. Oh my gosh. There is a heated discussion going on. Hi, Lord. Nice to see you. Hi, Ramona. Hi, Humberto Production Viral saying hola. El Miri saying hello, everyone. I'm from Caracas. I live in Barcelona, Spain. Greetings. Hello. Welcome, welcome. Uh, Peter Lum is saying Mora House of X, basically. Is this a movie? I gotta look it up, but Joe Suchin is saying, me overthinking this. Do I show my age? Do I look in my 20s if I'm 200? This is going to be a long conversation. We're going to sprinkle this combo a little bit during the entire combo. But Jonathan, can you tell us like where you're joining in from, how you started in AR? You said you're a creative technologist. What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, I started as a creative tech because I started actually on advertising. So I
Oh.
quite like advertising. I find it kind of interesting for whatever reason. And then I was like, well, it's not very good or very interesting a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like pre-TikTok,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is like 5, 6 years ago. And I was like, okay, how can we use tech to make it a bit more interesting? So I started my first sort of AR kind of thing was a hand tracking thing I made, but like
Oh.
you could it was like I think I used a Leap Motion, some other bits and bobs. You could track your hands and pick up things in a virtual ad, so it looked like an ad, but if you put your hands near it, you could actually pick up the things in the ad with your hands. And so some people liked that, and so I started getting jobs in ad land, and now that's kind of my job. But I'm a creative technologist, and creative technologists are quite popular at tech companies, and especially those that are kind of in the kind of brand space. And so we make things for brands. I make things for brands a lot of the time, but on the side, I make a lot of effects for other creators and for brands, and a lot for myself because I enjoy it. And I guess that's kind of why I'm here as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. I know you've recently worked with Energizer. You made a fun game within TikTok effects.
Duracell,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
And it was so
Yeah,
fun because whenever you would step on a platform, there would be like a supercharged battery. And if you step on that one, you would just like soar through the sky. And that seemed so fun.
yeah, we've had a lot of fun making
You
those.
you gotta
It's
tell
really
me
cool.
a little bit more about the level design. I mean, is it repeating? Is it randomized? Or like, is there a way to beat the game?
Well, I quite like infinite games that just get really hard. And we'll talk a bit about it later, but like if I'm thinking people are recording maybe 60-second TikToks, or maybe they're recording slightly longer, but they're speeding it up or something like that, I'm thinking my game needs to be really fun and then be almost impossible at that point. Because then it gets to a kind of point where they've got a pretty good size video that they're kind of okay posting. In my experiments, I found that games where there isn't much of a difficulty curve, it's just the same thing forever, people kind of lose interest. And then because they've lost interest, they don't want to post a video. Whereas if it keeps getting more difficult for 60 seconds and then it gets impossible around then, they'll lose or win or whatever around then. And then they'll be like, this was a fun video, there was tension, I'm going to post it. Conversely, if you make it really difficult too quick, then people are like, I suck at this, I'm not going to post, someone else will do better than me. So everyone's got to feel like they're doing great. But what I also like to do is make sure that those top TikTok game creators, your king of TikTok games type people, you've got to make sure that you're giving them a great experience as well by making the game like quite difficult, or giving them little hacks that they
Yeah.
use to do really well at games, and so they'll then use the effect as well. So there's all
Jonathan has
sorts of
created so many fun and viral games, and today he's also going to share a little bit about not only the game production side, but like a little hacks that he's picked up along the way to make it more engaging for the users, or how to make people post their results. So we're gonna hear a little bit more about that. But one more thing before we move on. What are some of your favorite effects? I know you've made so many in the past, but is there any recent favorites? The things you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I made this. I'm God.
That's a good. I mean, I don't think any of them make me feel like a god, but recently, and it's often not like the most popular. That are always the ones that I find the most fun. But recently, I've done some cool ones, like Apple Vision Pro one, which is like when you're in FaceTime. I don't know if you can see up the Apple Vision Pro one. It's probably somewhere down there. If you scroll it, oh, there it is. It's on the second row, all the way to the right. Yeah, so it's like the Apple Vision Pro and FaceTime. There's like a thing that shows your face. I don't know what they call the avatars, but they're like. So I tried replicating as best I could with like the blur and stuff in the background. And you can also move the window around as I might in the video. And like the blur is completely live in real time, and I think it looks just quite cool. I like experimenting with like glass morphism type UIs as well.
This
So
is
I had fun making that one.
absolutely incredible because I've purchased the Apple Vision Pro before, and I was like trying to scan my face, and this is exactly what it looks like. Like, you were able to get this down to a T. Like, when people use this effect, this is what you will actually get in Apple Vision Pro. So great job making everything look super polished. You got to tell us more about the glass morphism and something. It looks awesome.
Yeah, I think the way that I did it was I put the like background like scene, which was like I projected onto a 3D sphere, and I had two cameras on that scene, on that like layer. And so I had one that was just the normal one that you see in the background, the city and the room, and then I had one which was a camera which I used a post-processing blur blur post processing, and then I saved that to a render text render,
Yeah.
and then I used that in the material for the background of that kind of plane that you see there.
Wow.
I used material nodes,
Uh-huh.
which I don't know, we'll talk about next time. That's upcoming session, and we'll cover that kind of stuff. I get too
Guys, do
excited
we
about
need
it.
a crash course for material editor as well? It seems like Jonathan's dropping so many tips about how to make like awesome visual effects and materials. We gotta have him back for a crash course material editor.
I'd love that. I think we could like start with the basics. We could start by just making shapes like SDFs,
Uh-huh.
just making simple shapes, and then
Yes.
learn to make really cool stuff.
Yes.
There was another recent one that I quite enjoyed making was the power effect.
Power effect.
I don't know
Let me
which.
see.
Yeah, it's like let's see if I can see it there. Oh yeah, it's the just below your mouse and to the right.
Follow my mouse to the right.
Down one.
Down one.
And left.
This one.
Yeah,
Whoa!
that one there. So that one there.
Look at that.
I don't know how well you can see it, but that's all using. It's entirely created in the material editor. Just all of those effects.
Mind blown. This is insane.
Yeah, I was ill for an evening, or a bit longer than that.
Okay.
But I made the.
I gotta
effect
nominate some of my favorite effects. It's this refund speedrun thing, because this happened to me so many times because I love online shopping. It's a problem, guys. It's a problem. But here, like, I have to go through this every time I want to do a return. They're like, will you return it in your credits, or would you return it in key? Press on this X icon, and if you miss like the very tiny X icon, you gotta restart the entire process. And they're like, do you want to store cookies? Do you want to do this? Can you verify that you're a human? And I'm like, oh gosh.
Yeah. So yeah, replicated that. This one actually took me a while. This was like a day. Because of the complexity of like the number pad on it. But it is quite fun. It's definitely, again, it's like the one that I enjoyed making a lot, but I think there's like 5 people who've used it, which is okay. I make them for fun.
Yeah, so usually,
but like I can make another one which turns you into a sim, and it gets 20,000 videos or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's not proportionate, and that's a tip there. That's a top tip, is make effects because you enjoy them, and that'll, chances are you'll get something viral and fun. But like, yeah, I mean, hey, the chances are kind of, I don't know, random. I think when you've made a good one, but it's good to make them for fun, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And one last call out. I think this is so original and so creative. This one, which I love, like, you gotta use your body and go through. I've seen a lot of like Japanese reality TV shows where they have a cutout of a wall and they slowly come towards you, and then you have to like go and match that shape. So I think this is extremely fun.
It is
an awesome job. Okay, I didn't get to ask you for your favorites. Do you have any favorites?
Of these, I'll point out some of them. I think we'll talk through how I made a couple of them today. Maybe draw to cat. I don't know if that's up
this
there.
One?
Yeah. So basically, you can draw the shape of a cat, or do whatever you want. There's some people I've seen have done some really quite funky shapes, and it'll almost always make you a cat about that shape.
Wow, this is so fun. And as a fellow cat lover, I absolutely love this effect. Everybody knows I'm obsessed with cats. Actually, you guys have been asking like, hey Celine, what's the thing in the back? What's the thing in the back? That's actually a cat wheel. And sometimes if you come to our live stream, you'll see that my cat is running up there, just like a hamster.
I genuinely didn't know you could get cat wheels. And it doesn't like fall off the shelf or anything?
It does not. I have it. It's up there. My cat is napping at the moment, but you'll see. And when it happens, I'll point it out, guys.
Brilliant.
Sounds good. Lastly, you were at GDC with Effect House. How was the process? How was the journey? What did you think? What did you show off at GDC?
It was so cool. We basically like, obviously we're all making games, and that's loads of fun. But it was really fun, like when we had Minecraft, and we have Minecraft, and having Minecraft assets, right? So many of us use them, and they're great fun. So we were like talking to some of the best people making games at like this huge, I think maybe the biggest game conference, and like, come on, bring your assets into Effect House and like join our game jam. which is really cool, which is happening obviously. And so yeah, it was great, and also very, very cool to meet a bunch of other like amazing game devs that I look up to outside of like making effects on TikTok as well. There's people I've like, and I'm like, wow, they're here. That's so cool. And I went to loads of like sessions, super geeky sessions, talking about writing shaders and stuff. And then also just got to explore San Francisco, which was, I mean, great.
We had
loads
great
of fun.
pizza there. The pizza there was
We did have great
bomb.
pizza there.
And it was your
Yeah, it
first
was
time
really, really
trying In-N-Out.
Oh, In-N-Out burger was amazing. I was really good, and I got I have it here. I got a really cool faux leather jacket there. I'm so excited. Yeah, it was amazing. And I also got. I went to this like bakery. What was it called? Like Bourdin Bakery or something,
Yes,
where they like hollow out some bread. Bourdin. They hollow out some bread and put clam chowder or something in it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so nice. I would have never bought that, but I think, was it like you were like, oh, you definitely got to try something.
I recommended Jono my In-N-Out recipe. It's a very comprehensive list. I have to have fried mustard on there, chopped chilies, but it's really good. But I have a new edition, so I'm gonna send you my updated version, including extra lettuce. But that and also Bowden. So if you guys are in San Francisco, reach out to me. I have a lot of good recommendations. Please reach out to me and I'll be like, yeah, check out these places. But finally, moving on to our agenda. So today we're going to be
Can you get better than 95%?
Predominantly, the first one is you try to do a circle and see how perfect of a circle you can create.
Alright,
the second
new
one
effect.
is
Can you get better than 95%?
DVD corner challenge. It's where you tap on the screen and try to make the DVD exactly
new
align in the
effect.
corner.
Can you
So
get
we
better
have
than
divided the session into,
95%?
like beginner, intermediate, and advanced sessions. For the beginner sessions, we're going to be looking at this DVD
Alright,
corner
new
challenge.
effect. Can you get better than
You have to
95%?
set up the basics. For intermediate, we're going to adjust the tolerance.
Alright,
to
well,
make sure
I'm sure
everything is
someone else
super
can do
good.
better at this than I
You
can.
can
New
see all
effect.
of the
Can you
beauty.
get better than
And lastly, for
95%? It's
advanced,
got to
we're
be a
going to
perfect
draw a
angle.
circle challenge and how to use math notes to create that. So without further
Alright,
ado, I'm
new
going
effect.
to transition
Can you get
over
better
to
than
Jono,
95%?
and we can get started.
Brilliant. All right, sweet. Cool. Okay, so first of all, the game. Now, I know you've just shown it, but let's review the game and work out what we're trying to create. I really like to, sometimes I'll draw on paper, but today I will attempt using this tablet I've got to draw what we're going to try and create. Let me get rid of what I've got up there already. We can come to that later. So essentially, we've got at the beginning an arrow that moves, and it helps you select like what angle you choose. So that's the beginning of it. And then you tap, and at that moment, it'll go off in that direction. And then there's a countdown as well. The countdown's there because I think statistically, if you left it forever, it would hit a corner. But I think creators would die of boredom before they got there. So I added an artificial failure. I think it's like 10 seconds, something like that. And at the end of that, then you fail. And so you've just got to try and get it faster than that. But I think I made it also so you can tap if you feel like it's not going very well. So yeah, you've got to try and let's see if I managed at the end. I'm not sure if I do. I don't look like I'm managing there. Yeah, that looks like a failure. All right, well, there is a video where I think I managed, but it is difficult. Anyway, so that's kind of the main thing. So we're starting with rotating an arrow. So step one is the arrow that goes kind of left and right like that. And then screen tap. I always like, whenever I'm getting like a screen tap, even if I don't need to, I always whack a sequence in there, just because at some point I'm probably going to trigger something else with it. So it's just always good, I find, to just add a sequence there anyway, just useful. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to start our timer. Here's our timer. And let me know if I'm not zooming in quite enough. So that's cool. Yeah, I like that. So that starts our timer. I'm realizing now that we don't have any DVD scenario going on at all. So maybe let's be a bit creative and let's add in. So I've made a 2D camera here already, but I'm going to insert like a background image. This can be like the back of our TV screen for now. In the real version, for those who are a little more advanced, what I did was I actually did a render of the screen with the DVD thing moving, and then I made a separate scene with a TV. And then I basically took the texture, the render texture of the DVD moving, added some custom effects like that kind of noise effect and a bit of warp, and I just whacked that in to the TV box texture. So you've got kind of that nice semi-authentic looking kind of TV. So this is actually a separate render texture in here for that kind of glowy effect that I didn't want to affect the whole scene, just only this bit to make it seem like it's an old telly. Okay, back to our scene though. Let's change this texture from the default texture to our white texture, which is in here. It's a default texture as well, but it's white. And that just means that we can, remember the screen, I like to change this to stretch, which I can now make this like this size. Feels rude. I'm interrupting our user here. Let's change to like a super basic background for now. So I've got this white background. I'm going to make it like a TV screen. I think I'm going to make it like that, and just changing the color there. And then I like to name things. So I'm going to call this back. Nice and simple. For the DVD icon, what I might do, okay, let's see if this works. I'm gonna DVD, and let's just take a screenshot, which on a Mac is Command-Shift-4. I'm gonna take that, and I'm going to drag it into Effect House like this. And so now we've got a screenshot.
I love the DIY logo.
Yeah, just for now. We're not putting any copyright. Okay, cool. So let's put in DVD. Okay, cool. Let's make another image. Let's put in a screen image, and let's now choose our. Should bring this over here. Let's change our DVD image. Brilliant. Okay, and now I'm going to make this. What should we make it, like 100 by 100? That seems reasonable to me. I'm actually going to make it stretch a bit, and I'm going to change this to like 60. Yeah, that's that's something. I don't know how you can see that.
Is there a reason why you decided to do it on the black square instead of, like, let's say the whole screen and making it like slightly transparent, or putting the person in the front? I wonder, like, what was your thinking process?
So my thinking process is that this will never be seen by the user, this bit. I'm going to turn this into a render texture afterwards, and I'm then going to put it on a 3D television maybe. And that way, the 3D television's in front of the user with the texture of what we're making here in it. So this would actually never be seen by the user. But equally, we could move all of this down the screen, so our users may be behind it. But for now, we're not taking into account the user. We're just making a screen like this. And the other benefit is, as we'll see, by having this approach, we can use coordinates more easily. So for example, here, our DVD icon is in the middle. So it's at 0, 0. And that's just quite nice for us for now. But yeah, I mean, it's a very fair point. It's just the way that we're making the effect. But equally, afterwards, we could very easily add someone in whatever way we wanted. But yes, I'll be using this as a render texture to put inside of our television at a later date.
So
But right now, we're more worried about
this approach because you want to apply render textures on it and make it like super realistic and put it on a television. I was just thinking, like, does having the user reaction, I know in your original DVD video you could see like the person on the background, does having that like increase a person's chance to publish / a person's chance for it to be popular? For example, like, you could have made a completely dark screen with just the DVD logo and the timer without showing the person at all.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, absolutely. Having people in the effect, I think it's like the difference. It's like if you watch a Twitch streamer, there are some that maybe don't share their face, but there's something just a bit more engaging about seeing them. Or if you're watching a TikTok gamer stream, you want to see the person gaming, right? And that's kind of the bit that makes it human and makes them unique as well. If I didn't have the person in the video, then what's the incentive to share it? Because it's just anyone, they'll all look the same. And so it's more fun when you see someone's reaction to failing or to winning as well, for sure. That's the reason people love it, and it gets engagement. So that's a very, very fair point. And I think when we get to the advanced bit, we will for sure work a way to bring the user into this. Absolutely.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Wonderful. All right. So we've created this. We're kind of ready now. We just want to make this DVD icon bounce around. There are loads of ways we could do this. But the way that I'm going to show you today is a bunch of math, because I think that makes it kind of fun. And also in a way simpler than what I even did in the original version of the game, which was lots of variables. So I had a variable for the direction I wanted the DVD icon to move in. And when it got to the top, I flipped the direction so it would go the opposite way. And I had speed. I had loads of different things built in. But for now, we're going to be as simple as possible with math nodes to try and explain what's going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, put 10 seconds in here. So we know that the timer will start when the user taps the screen, which we can see in here. So screen tap, timer starts. And when it's completed, if they haven't yet, we'll pause the timer when they manage. But if they haven't yet, we'll know that they've failed on the timeout of the timer. So we'll keep that in mind. But what we want is now we want to take the elapsed time, which is how much time the timer's done already. So when you tap it, it'll begin the time. And we're going to peak it. I always like whacking, if there's a number output, I always like whacking a peak node in there just so I can see exactly what it is, which makes debugging so much easier later. And there was already a session which I recommend checking out in part of this series for debugging, which you should definitely check out. So now I want the DVD icon to automatically bounce depending on what this arrow will be that you set at the beginning. So which direction it should go and therefore how it should bounce. And how do we do that? Well, one way we could do it is we could create, for example, a transit by time. And we could say, okay, it ping pongs, and let's say it ping pongs 1,000 times. And we go from, see, our screen width is 720. So let's say it goes from minus 360, which is half of that. So all the way to the left. And then it goes, well, let's make that 300. So it's not quite as extreme. So minus 300 to 300. And let's say we took the position of our DVD. So I'm going to rename this DVD like that. So this is our DVD object here. And I'm going to take the position of that, set position. And I'm going to take this number here, which is going from 300, minus 300 to 300, back to minus 300 to 300. So it's like ping ponging between them. I'm going to take it. I'm going to combine that number into a vector 2. So our vector 2 in this case represents the X position of our DVD and the Y, which is up and down. So right now I'm just going to do side to side. I'm going to put that in here. And I'm going to say on every frame, so on the stay, on every frame of our transit by time, I want to update the position of our DVD icon. So here, updating position. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to, for now, I'm going to put in a screen tap node. I'm going to put that in here. Now, when I press it, that's way too fast. And that's because I haven't changed the duration, which I really should have done. Let's make that 3 just for now. And let's refresh our effect and press go. And now you can see it's bouncing left to right. And what I could do is then I could build a second transit by time node. And I could say, turn this into a sequence. And I could say the second one goes up to the second transit by time. And I want the second transit by time to maybe, this is the up and down one. So I want it to go from, say, minus 200 to 200, and then keep ping ponging as well. And I'm going to set this one's time to maybe slightly less, something like 2.6. And these are all random. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to put this position here, which is our up and down, into the Y of the combine node, which turns them into a vector 2, which can then set the position. And now what should happen is we get this kind of bouncy DVD thing. It's a little bit fast. I think this would be a pretty difficult game to play. So maybe let's make this like 0.6 and make this 0.8 or something like that. And then we get a slightly more reasonable. Oh, that's way faster, of course, but there we go. You get the point though. But we're not going to do it like this. We're going to be way more exciting than that. And we're going to use a bunch of math nodes. And what are we going to do? Well, we're going to just take the time as it goes, the elapsed time, and that's going to give us the result we want. How's it going to do that? Let's talk about it. So I'm going to let's get rid of all of this stuff in here, which I think I can do like this. It's probably not the fastest way to do that, but I haven't figured out a faster way yet. Yeah, that's looking good.
Jonathan,
All right.
I think you might be disheartened because you spent so much time on the old DVD effect, looking at making it look super polished. But I love your DVD logo, and maybe for April Fool's Day or something, you need to publish this where all of the assets are just hand drawn on a scribble.
I think that would do well, actually. That's actually kind of a weird learning that we've got, especially making branded effects for companies, is that the ones where it feels more like handmade and like less brandy, they do way better, because people, unless it's like a TV show that people love it, but like if you make something that just feels organic and kind of silly, people really like that kind of thing. And so it's definitely good, and probably I would do better if I did hand draw all of my assets. Yeah, it would probably look fun, and maybe that's something I should try. I do love testing A and B tests. I maybe sometimes release the same effect twice with one small modification to like how difficult it is or something like that, and just see how people react. Sometimes I get quite extreme differences where one takes off faster than the other one. So that's just something, but that's quite a niche, I think. So anyway, we're taking our time. Now, if we imagine a graph of time, and we're going to put zeros here. So this no seconds have passed. This is 1 second has passed, 2 seconds have passed, etc. And here we've got -1 second has passed, -2 seconds have passed, and -3 seconds have passed. So that's in the past. And if I take a time node, so here's our time node. We put that in here. It's a node with time. That gives us time. That's linear. That goes from 0, 1 second passes, 2 second passes. That goes on forever. We don't want forever, because the DVD icon would just go off the screen like that, just forever. It would go for it. We can't have that. That's not good. So what we want to do is we want to, let me have a look, make sure I'm doing everything right here. Yeah, we want to use a mod node, modulate. Modulate's great. So I'm going to take a mod node, looks like this. Let's put capitals so you can see it. Try and zoom in a little bit. And now what's great about a mod node, if I put in our time and I put in, say, 2, so I'm putting 2 into our mod node here, then the time will go up to 2. And then when it gets to 2, it'll just start at 0 again and go to 2. And so now I'm getting this. Now this looks pretty cool. Suddenly my DVD icon's going like boom, boop, boop, boop. So let's do this. Let's create this. So I'm going to take our time. So that started on when the user pressed, if you remember from before, they've pressed the screen, they've tapped, and now this time will just go up. So if I press play here and I just tap, you can see this is beginning to go up. So that's just forever. If I set this as our combination, so if I go to combine and I make this our Y and I say DVD position, so I'm setting the DVD position, and I'm going to say on tick, so that's every frame that the timer goes, or just every frame it's running, we're going to change the Y. Then look what happens. Oh, that's incredibly slow, isn't it? We've got to speed that up. We've got to multiply that a little bit, I think. So let's. It is going up, but it's going up very slowly, and everyone finds that boring. I'm just for now going to multiply this by 100, and what we'll see is it'll go up every second by 100 pixels. But the problem is it's not bouncing. This is the worst DVD bouncing effect. It'll never come back. You've lost already. There's no way you can win. Not a good effect. So what we need to do is get it to at least come back again. So we had the mod node. Let's try that out. I'm actually going to bring back our multiply because we're going to need that in a second. So I'm going to take this, our combination. I'm going to say, or as you bring that to the end, I'm going to take our number. So this is the time that's going up, just like any timer would. I'm going to put mod like that. I'm going to put 2. Modulo, what it does, like I said before, is the moment something goes over 2, it'll go back to 0 again. So it's just like repeating, kind of like a fract node if you're making shaders. So let's whack that in here now, and let's look at the difference. So let's reset our effect and press play. And now you'll see, hopefully, it just keeps doing this like forever. Again, this is not particularly interesting, and it's not bouncing. It's just going back to the beginning again. So what do we do to make it return down? This is where some more interesting nodes come into play, because now let's subtract 1. Okay, let's give that a go. I'm going to subtract 1. So that's a subtraction node. Subtract, and we're going to subtract 1. And now we, instead of going from 0 to 2, now we go from -1 to 1. Okay, so it's still doing this, right? But let's do this. Let's input what we've just done here. So I'm going to take our mod node. I'm going to move these to the right so we can do a bit of work between. I'm going to do subtract. Subtract. I'm going to subtract 1. I love the new updates to search, by the way, in Effecthouse. Now all of the nodes you use most frequently are at the top. That's a great feature. Okay, cool. So we're subtracting it. And now we should see, instead of it going from the middle up, middle up, middle up, it now should be going from just below the middle, through the middle and up. This is getting closer because now we're in this space where we've got that going on. That looks lovely. Again, it's still not bouncing yet, so we've definitely got to fix that. This is where the genius comes in. You might not know, but one of the best nodes is an absolute node. So I'm going to try and replicate what I did just there. I wonder if we can select my drawings and move them this way. We can. Oh, that's very fancy. Okay, great. So now I'm going to take this subtract by 1. So it's going from -1 to 1, -1 to 1 all the time. And we're going to add an absolute node. Let's whack that in. A, B, S. Absolute node, basically what it does is a number can never be -0. It's absolute. It has to be 0 and above. That's pretty powerful because it means that rather than any minus numbers, instead a -1 is turned into a +1. A -0.5 here would be turned into a +5, +0.5. So now our pattern will start looking like this, because every time that it was going to go into the -1 here, instead that's just going to go here now instead. And so these are kind of rubbed out. They're no longer there because you can't have a negative number with the absolute node. So now we've got this zigzag thing, and that's looking a lot more like up and down to me. So let's try that out. Absolute, like that. And we're going to whack it in there. And now, with any luck, if I haven't done anything awful, now we should be seeing a bounce. That's really cool. That's very exciting. I'm excited. I'm very excited about that. Okay, cool. So now let's say, okay, so it's good we've got up and down working, but what about left to right? We definitely want to get left to right working as well. So how might we do that? Well, one of the things we want to do is essentially copy everything we've done so far. So we want to copy all this work we did and apply it to up and down. So let's literally copy those nodes and paste them. So our mod node, our subtract node, and our absolute node, that, as you remember before, take our time that goes on forever, turns it into a mod. And so now it just keeps like looping from 0 to 2 because we put 2 into the mod node. And then we subtract 1. So instead of it going from 0 to 2, 0 to 2, 0 to 2, now it's going -1 to 1, -1 to 1, -1 to 1. And we whack it into an absolute to get that zigzag up and down thing, which is what we want. And we want to do the same left to right. So let's take our number from the timer, do exactly the same calculations, and we'll whack those into our nodes up here. So now at the top, we've got left to right. At the bottom here, we've got up and down. And now let's see what happens. Now, to me, this isn't massively inspirational because it's doing exactly the same thing. And that's because they're all using exactly the same math. So it's going up at exactly the same rate as it's going left and right, up and down at the same rate as they're going left and right. And so you will always end up with just that same thing going on. So now what we could do is take our number here and multiply it. So this is our timer, and multiply it. So I'll explain why I'm doing this in a second. If we whack in our multiply node, put it here like this and here like this. So now they're both being multiplied. So for example, if I were to take 0.5 as our left and right and leave 1 as our up and down, then let's see what happens. Now we can see this happening. And that's because we're going double the speed up and down as we are going left and right. So you get this kind of V thing. But if we put in some kind of random stuff like 2.27 and maybe let's put in 0.384, why not? Now let's see what happens. It's kind of like random bouncing. Now it's still not going quite far enough as we'd like. So now let's take our multiply node and work out how far we want it to be bouncing. So our back here is about, let's make that 602 high, but let's make that 600 high and make our calculations a bit easier. So let's put in half of 600, which is our height of the back area, and put it into how much we want our DVD icon to move. So let's put in 600. And for left and right, that's 720. If we half 720, we get 360, I think. That seems to make sense to me. And then, yeah, and then let's round that down to maybe like 300. It'll be good enough. And now we press go. Oh, wow, that's doing the whole screen. I might have made a small mistake there. Oh yeah, I didn't half this. I should have made this 300 and made that something like, let's try that now. And now that's looking pretty cool. Let's see now. There's still something odd going on. That doesn't feel quite right, right? And I know what it is now. It's because we're only in positive space. So I'm going to use my favorite node, which is a lerp node. I'm going to take this here.
Is lerp node your all-time favorite out of all of the nodes?
Oh yeah, absolutely it is. Yeah. It's the best. You can turn any number into any other number. It's like the remap node, but a little bit more concise. So what we've got here is our zigzag, as we remember from before. It's going 0 to 1, back to 0 to 1, back to 0 to 1, back to 0 to 1. So lerp turns 0 to 1 numbers, so any range between 0 and 1, into whatever you want. So we take our step, so that's our 0 to 1, and we say at the start, we want it to be minus 300 down screen. So we want our DVD icon to essentially do, oh, I chose the wrong thing. I need to select DVD. So we essentially want it to go all the way down there. That's minus 269. Maybe let's make that minus 260, just nice and round. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to whack it into this node here. So we want to go from minus 260, and then it's going to reflect at the top. So we want to 260. And then left and right, let's reset that up there for now. How far left can we go and right? That's minus 305. Okay, we can do that. So minus 305 left. So let's start at minus 305. And then we want to go all the way to the other side, which should be also about 305. And yeah, it is. That's about 304. Yeah, 305. Nicely done. So we're going to put that in there. And now what we should have is zigzagging between minus 260 and 260 up and down, and minus 305 and 305 left and right, or the other way around, up and down. But you get it. Okay, let's press go now. And this should work. Now it should bounce at the bottom pretty much. Maybe we put too much height on that up and down. So let's maybe reduce that. Let's make this one. I think I might have mixed up our nodes. Let's move that one to the top and that one to the bottom. I think. Let's do that. That one there. That one here. That's only because I mixed up left and right and up and down. One of the other benefits of being a dyslexic is working with nodes is actually easier, I find, than coding, but it's still confusing to me. All right. Now, this should work. We get bouncing. We do. Look at that. And this is all math. We're not having to do any variables. We're not having to go, is it at the top? Now we need to change direction. None of that. Math, just pure math, is doing it all for us. And so it'll bounce for 10 seconds just with math. We didn't say actually change direction. Oh, now you've got to the top, do that, or anything like that. We literally just got it bouncing. This is an amazing first step and lots of fun. I'm really pleased with this. And all we had to do was use this math here, which I'm realizing is probably a little bit low res. So let's make this screen a bit smaller for now, and hopefully you can kind of see what we've done here. So very, very quickly, we've said we've chosen the speed of each axis. So we've said we want left and right to happen 0.27 of a second, and we want up and down 0.384. And that just means they'll be going slightly different, and then you get the kind of interesting bounce. So that's a really great start. Then we're modding it. So every time it gets to 2, it goes back to 0 again. We're subtracting 1 again. So we're going from -1 to 1. Then we're doing absolute. So it zigzags. It's never in the negative. It's always positive. And then we take that 0 to 1, 0 to 1, 0 to 1 up and down zigzag, and we turn it into a lerp where we take it, we go -305, 2305, etc. And you get that kind of movement going to and fro. So that's great. We're in a really good place now. One thing you might have noticed is in the game that I made, the DVD icon always starts in the middle. So hopefully I'll press, yeah, it starts in the middle. But in our effect that we've made just now, it's starting right at the top. So let's press go. It's starting up here, which we don't really want. And so as it turns out, there's a little bit of maths that can help us with that. We can just fake it and give it a number where we know it's already in the middle. So I'm going to say we want to add 0.5 to each side. And that means that we skip the bit where it was at the top right. So let's say 0.5. That goes in there. And that goes in there. Actually, let's do 2, because in the future we'll need to add some more nodes at the beginning so that we can adjust the speed super easily. So let's put that in here. So we've added 0.5, and now, because of this clever bit of maths, it should. It's not. That's good. We've got to figure out how that happens. Oh, I know what I did. I need to do the time multiplication before I do the adding. That's another bit of complex math, but you don't have to worry about that. So essentially, I'm going to start by saying how fast I want them to move. Then I'm going to take that and add 0.5, I think. And let's put that into our mod. Now this should mean, yes, we start in the middle.
Jono,
that's good. Yeah.
Everybody's saying amazing approach. This is brilliant. But Peter wanted to know, how did you come to this thinking? How did you come to this thinking model for conceptualizing the math for this? What was the epiphany compared to your original solution?
Well, my original solution was essentially the transit by time that I did above. But what I didn't really like about it was that I was doing quite a lot of thinking in there. I had like that direction thing I told you about where I was changing. So I was like, I know it's possible to use maths to do like a zigzag. And so I was like, I wonder if I can do the lot with math. So I don't have to make any logic that says, oh, it's at the top, time to turn around and go the other way. And so that was really what I did there. And then this morning, I tried like working out in my head how I'd do that. And that's where I essentially drew this for myself. I did a version of this on here. I was like, okay, how would I do that? Okay, a mod 2, that'll work. So that was really the epiphany moment for me for this one.
So if you didn't have your
sometimes
amazing brain with all of the prerequisite math knowledge, is there a way that you would go about trying to figure this out? Would you ask ChatGPT like, hey, I want to do this, can you please write it in math terms? Or how would you go about it, like if you have a problem that you want to solve but you don't know yet?
So if I don't know a problem yet, yes, one thing I'll do is I'll use ChatGPT or a similar tool. So I might say, I want to make a number go between 0 and 1 and then go back to 0 and to 1. Could you make a function that takes time in and then does those? And it'll probably give you a pretty good math expression that you can replicate. So it'll probably say something like, what you want to do is put your time into a modulo function, and then you want to subtract 1 from it, then you want to do absolute on it, and it'll kind of show you like that. Sometimes if you've got a fairly simple query, you can actually say, can you tell me how I would do it with scripting nodes? And it'll give you kind of a generic scripting node approach that works in a lot of softwares. So that's a pretty good approach. Or you can just like experiment like I did at first, which is the transit by time thing, where you can use this ping pong node and it'll just go like that. And like I showed you earlier, you can have 2 of them, 1 for up and down, 1 for left and right, and it'll work. It'll do good. And that's literally what the current version of the effect is using, is that kind of approach. But for me, that it feels like a little bit of complexity in there that I'm not sure I like quite as much as this approach, where you can kind of understand why it's happening. But Yeah, absolutely. You can do it a variety of ways, but definitely Googling it, or honestly, like come to the Discord, and there's a bunch of us that'd be more than happy to help. You post your problem there, and a bunch of us every now and then will go through and like, hey, that's probably the way that you do that. And it's always good to do that. I think there's so much you can do with math nodes that is so interesting, and they're definitely worth like getting to grips with. And it seems complicated, but actually when you begin using them, it really isn't. And I'm certainly no mathematician. Yeah, it definitely wasn't something I did at school, so don't worry about it. Yeah, I hope that helps.
Michael, also known as The Spectacle, is saying, by the way, this is a really cool breakdown, Jonathan. So thank you for sharing.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, you're so welcome. I find this really, really fun. Okay, so let's see. One problem we've got right now is that our DVD icons, if we click, it's going from the middle down left. I'm not really a fan of that. So let's find out why that's happening. Maybe what we can do is say we want to go from 305 to minus 305 and do the same here from 260 to minus 260. And yes, there we go. We already fixed it. Because that's what we're saying is like, go in the other direction, essentially flip the direction you're going. So now we've got this DVD bouncing like this. But what if we manage somehow to get a corner? How do we detect corners? I had a complex thing before where what I was doing was I was saying, I'm going to take my, let's take our left and right. So this is our left and right. This goes between 0 and 1, 0 and 1. And what I was doing was, is it less than 0.1? If it is, then you're right on the left. Okay, cool. And now I need to check, okay, are you also less than 0.1 y? And that means, are you right at, are you right at the bottom and are you right at the left? And if those are the case, then you must be in the corner. And so I had to do, okay, so if you're both of those things, I'm going to put an and like this. If you're both of those things, then if this is good, you've won. You've got in a corner. But I'd have to do this for every single corner. And that sucks. That's rubbish. So we've got a double as good approach, because what we can do is the equal node. How? Well, what we do is we take our equal node. So this is left and right. You can see that when I tap this, I'm going to zoom in real. When we tap, you can see this is the X. It's going all the way to 1 when it's on the left, and all the way to 0 when it's on the right. Great. So we want to take exactly this, and we want to say if it equals 0.5, so that's right in the middle. You can see right now, so if I reset this, you can see right now the DVD icon's in the middle. That's a 0.5. So if it equals 0.5, then, well, that's meaningless. It just means it's in the middle. But it means that you haven't won. Because if it's in the middle of X, you can't have won. So let's change our tolerance. And we'll talk a lot more about tolerance as we go into this, because it's where things get really interesting. But let's say we've got a tolerance of 0.4. Let's press play. Oh, and first of all, let's say, okay, if, I'm going to take if. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to say every frame that the timer's on, we're going to update the location, the DVD icon, but I'm also going to take that into our if node like this. And we're going to say every frame, if it is not, so let's say if it is not in the center or near the center by a tolerance of 0.4, then you've won. So you've hit an edge. Let's call that a win for now. And what we're going to do is pause it. So I said, if you're on an edge, true, we're pausing the timer. So let's see what happens now. I don't know what's going to happen, but let's see what happens. It stops. And it stops because suddenly it's more than 0. It's not equal to 0.5 by tolerance of 0.4. And that means that 0.5, that's fine. 0.6, that's fine. 0.7, that's fine. 0.8, well, we're getting questionable now, because here our tolerance is how much above and below 0.5 is okay. So 0.5 is fine. So for example, here we can plot it out. We can say, here's our board like that. Oh, that's wonderfully drawn and perfect. I'm even using a drawing tablet and I still can't draw. Okay, so here's our here's, let's say, one position it could be, and that equals 0.5. That's good. Now let's put our DVD icon here, and that's 0.6, and it's from a tolerance of 0.5, so it's only 0.1 difference, so that's fine. 0.1, our tolerance is 0.4, remember? So we get all the way to the edge, 0.7, that's okay, but 0.8, actually, so 5, that's extra, that's one extra, that's one extra, that's actually okay as well. But 0.9, suddenly we equal 0.4 away from 5. So our 0.4 tolerance away from 5. So essentially, anything here is a win, and also anything here is a win, because a minus tolerance is fine as well. So we go minus 0.5 minus also 0.4 and 0.3 and 0.2, but 0.1's not okay because that's suddenly away from our 0.4. It's more than our 0.4 away. So it's like our tolerance. Does it equal 0.5 with a tolerance of 0.4? So around it. So it's like drawing those edges. Great. So we've seen it ending there. But the problem is that it's kind of like ending any time we send it to an edge. And we don't really want that. We also want it to be if it's going up and down, so the up and down edges as well. That's why we do another exactly the same thing. So if it's not 0.5, but along up and down axes. So let's put that here. So 0.5 again, up and down. In the middle, it's okay. So it's this same thing again. In the middle, it's okay. It's okay up there. It's okay there. It's okay there. It's okay there. It's okay in all the directions instead, except for out here where it's outside of our tolerance of 0.4. Because this is a tolerance of 0.1, this is a tolerance of 0.2, 0.3. This is a minus tolerance. This is 0.4 tolerance. So now we've got like a box around where we basically are saying that this is a win, but we don't want it to just win any side it enters. So we can make it so it's you only win if you're in both this area and you're in this area. But how would that be possible? You can't be here and be here. That's obviously not going to be a thing. Oh, there's a back button. That's useful. Should have known that earlier. But what about you can be both if you're here? And you can be both of these if you're here. And you can be both of these if you're here and here. So only the corners. So let's work out how we do that with nodes. So we're saying if you're not in the corner on X, then like we said before, you've won. And now we want to do it the same with Y, but only if they're both not in the middle. So we say and. The and node is super powerful. If both of these are on, then this one will be on. So let's put that in here. And now we should see it. It still allows you to go on edges. Actually, maybe we need to lower our tolerance. Let's put that at like 0.45, so it's a little bit harder. So now we're still getting bouncing. Hopefully, I'm really hoping this is a corner. It's like, yeah, because right at that moment, you can see, oh, this is so exciting. You can see that this equals 0.043, which is outside of our tolerance. That's not allowed. Oh, you're not in the middle anymore on the x-axis along this way. And here we're saying, oh, you're at 1. You're all the way at the bottom, and that's outside of that direction tolerance that we just did. And so both are true because we said not in the middle for both up and down and left and right, and therefore you won, and that's why it stopped. So we have a working demo. Let's do it again just to make sure that wasn't a fluke, and we should get exactly the same result. Let's look at that. Brilliant. Yeah, we're winning every time. That's really boring because right now we've only set one direction. How did we set the direction it goes in? We did it over here. And this is where we start getting intermediate. Unless we have any other questions before I continue into doing the intermediate stuff, which I feel like we're already doing. Maybe not. Let me check the comments. I think I've got the comments up here. Let's have a look. Cool breakdown, useful. Description of the approach.
I think you're doing a great job at explaining.
Okay, great. Well, I'll keep going then. Wonderful. So, how are we doing direction? Well, we're doing it like this. We're deciding how speedy each should be. And if we remember earlier, if we set these both to 0.5, or any number for that matter, so we could make these 1, for example, then every second, both would go exactly to the corner. So let's see what happens. But just goes to the corner and you win straight away. That's really boring. But now we know that a 1 goes exactly the same amount if we put both at 1. If we made our left and right 0, what would happen now? It should be that it doesn't move at all left and right, and it only goes up and down. And you'll never win now because it'll always just go up and down. It'll never move side to side. So there's no chance of getting a corner. That's a bit boring. So let's maybe think about some other interesting. What if we wanted to go very slightly? Like, so right now we've tested a thing where if x is 0 and y multiplier is 1, then we only go up and down. Boring. So now instead, let's make our x 0.5 and y1. Now what will happen here? My guess is, what is my guess? My guess is we'll go like this. Would we? Well, we'd go all the way like that, and I think we'd bounce like that, and we'd keep doing like that. Let's give it a go. So let's say x is 0.5 speed and y is 1. I was kind of right, but in slightly the other direction. And now I don't think you'd be able to get a corner very easily because you're going to keep doing this kind of forever. That's kind of interesting though. So let's make this something more interesting, which we can do by having our arrow that does this. So let's test that out. How are we doing for time?
We are running a little later, but it's totally fine. We can go as long as you want.
Okay, cool. I'll be super quick on this then, and we can just get the arrow in. So this is our arrow. I'm going to do another hand-drawn approach. Okay, there it is. There's our arrow, and I'm just going to drag that, our nice new arrow, I'm going to drag that into Effect House. I'm going to call it arrow. And now let's make a new screen image. And this is where a very interesting thing becomes the pivot. So let's take our arrow, whack it in there like that, and make it about the size of the arrow. And let's put it like here, maybe a bit smaller. Let's put that like here. Now, if we turn the arrow right now using our rotation in Effect House, which is up at the top right here, it does this, which is not what we really want it to do. We want it to rotate around the middle of the screen. So we can do this really clever thing like this. We can take our pivot point, which is what it rotates around here, this little dot. I don't know how well you can see that. It's a little dot up here, and whack that right in the middle of the screen like that. And now when we rotate, oh, look at that. It's rotating around the middle where we put the pivot point. Big life hack. Okay, cool. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take a transit by time node. Oh, look, there's one over here. No, I'm going to be good. I'm going to make a new one. It's like in if anyone uses 3D creation software that puts a default cube in, even if you want a cube, you get rid of that cube first before you make another cube. That's just the way things work. Okay, cool.
That's just the way things work.
That is just the way things work. You're messing with the devil if you start using the default cube. Okay, so let's start the transit by time. What do we want the transit by time to do? Well, we want it to make the arrow, sorry, go like this. How will we do that? Well, ping pong seems good because we wanted to ping pong, ping pong. Actually, which way's the pong? Is it that pong, ping pong, ping pong? I don't know, but it doesn't really matter. Ping pong, it's pings first, right? So it's got to be ping pong. Anyway, okay, and we want it to go from 0, and we want our arrow to rotate 45 degrees. 45 degrees would be too easy because you'd easily hit a corner. So let's put 42 degrees. No, let's put 39 degrees. Also, if you go up and down forever, that's a really boring one. So we don't want to allow people to do that. So let's always make it so you can start at least 10 degrees. So you'd be starting from here. Oh, it's rotating the other way. So we need to make this minus 10 to minus 39. I'll never understand that, but here we are. Okay, so let's put minus 10 here. Nice. And now let's try what we said was the other thing we could do. So we want minus 39. That's there. That's good. That's not quite the corner because we don't want it to be so easy that you can just tap when it's facing the corner and you instantly get a corner. Don't want that to be fake news. Okay, so now we've got minus 10 to minus 39. So let's take our set rotation, and every frame that our transit by time runs, we want the arrow to rotate from minus 10 to minus 39, back to minus 10 to minus 39. That's good. And we want it to loop infinitely. Can we do -1? No, let's just put like many. Okay, cool. Oh, that's way too fast again because I've done the old cardinal sin. And let's make that 2. So now we've got this arrow doing this. That's pretty cool. We're kind of, this is like half the thing. But what happens if you tap? Well, the DVD just goes off in the same direction as it was before. And the arrow's still there doing the same ridiculous stunt it's doing. We don't need that scenario. So what we want to do is say that, and look, I said the sequence would be useful if you were here at the beginning of the stream. So on screen tap, one of the things we want to do is say the arrow becomes invisible. So we're going to set visibility. Here it is. And I'm going to drag our arrow into that. Oh, I called it screen image. Terrible. I should make sure I name everything. Oh, I used caps. Seems a bit rude. Arrow. There we go. Lowercase. Very nice. We're going to drag that into set visibility. I'm going to turn it off. By default off. It's a brilliant thing. Whoever made the set visibility node and made the default off, that's why most of us are using it, is to make things invisible. And so I'm pleased that that's the default. Whoever did that, nice one. Okay, so now what we do, let's reset our effect. It's going, arrow's moving. The moment we tap, it should disappear. And it did. That's half the thing done. But the DVD icon's still not moving in cahoots. So we don't want that. And now I'm going to do a thing. I'm going to say, what am I going to say? I'm going to say that we're going to turn this into, I'm going to instead lerp the numbers. This is really useful, I think, because sometimes like this transit by time, and this is really good learning, and I should have done this in the first place, but here we are. If you create a transit by time and put the actual numbers you want into the transit by time, it means it's not reusable for anything else. For example, if I wanted a second arrow that moved in the same way but at a different angle, then this isn't very useful anymore because I've made this only work for one arrow. So I'm going to use a lerp. I'm going to change this from 0 and change this to 1. And we're going to use a lerp node. So I'm going to take lerp. And lerps, if you remember, turn a 0 to 1 into whatever you want. They're dreamy. They're magical. And I'm going to turn that into from -10 to -39. And this now will do exactly the same thing as before, except for now we can reuse this transit by time node for loads of stuff. We could lerp it to all sorts of things. So let's just check this still works. It does. It's doing exactly the same thing. It's going back and forth like that. I love that. And now we want to turn this into a speed. So let's do that. Let's take this lerp. And we're going to say that if the arrow is at the top and you're like facing that way, it means that X speed should be much slower, right? So I'm going to say that if the arrow's like this way, the X speed should be like 0.2 maybe. But if it's all the way this way, X should be quite fast. So let's make that 0.6. And now I'm going to do the same for Y, but it's kind of like opposite from X. So if it's like, if the arrow's all the way up here facing this way, then Y needs to be much faster because it's going that way more than it's going this way. So we're going to say this is 0.6 now. And if the arrow's all the way this way, that's more x speed than up and down speed. That's more left and right than up and down. So we're going to do the opposite, which is 0.2. Okay, cool. So that's great. And now what we can do is say this becomes our multiplier. So down here, you can see the speeds we set ourselves. But now we can use this to set our speeds. So I'm going to bring this stuff a little bit down here. And we can link our multipliers. So we can take x here, put y here. Now, a problem is that this arrow just keeps moving, which means the speed will be changing all the time, even when you tap. So we also need to pause this when you tap. So that's a third thing we can do with our very useful node here. So that goes into the pause here. So now what's happening is the moment the user taps, it pauses the arrow where it is. The number that the arrow is on and like the direction gets turned into our speed, which is down here. This is our multiplier for how fast the DVD icon bounces. So let's see if this works. This is unproven territory. Go. I think I've done opposites. It's going off. Let's test it again. So I've just made a mistake. It looks like what I've done is made it do the wrong thing. So now, look at that. Or maybe it's almost right, but maybe I got my numbers a little bit wrong. That's kind of right. So maybe we need to make it more extreme. So make that more 0.1. Let's see what happens if we do that. Yeah, maybe we could go even lower, 0.05. Now let's do this. Yeah, now the DVD moves in the direction the arrow's going. This is where tweaking stuff is really good. And look, we actually just got we actually got a corner just then. So let's do the opposite that way. Now it's kind of more that direction. We're going a little bit far for my liking. So let's put 0.4 there and 0.4 here. Oh, that's even worse. Maybe that needs to be 1. Again, I went the wrong direction. That's possible. This clearly needs a lot of tweaking, eh? Let's keep trying. That's not good. That's going in all kinds of directions. But you can see, you can tweak around and learn like what makes the best result from what you need from it. So let's put that 0.4 again. Okay, so with a bit of tweaking, this could easily go, it's kind of there now, we're kind of getting it, goes in the direction of the arrow, and it'll now bounce. And is that going to be a corner? No, not quite. But you can see how that works now. And it's as simple as that. Right now it's stopped because it got to 10 seconds, which is our maximum time. So that's where you failed. Now, I think from here, you know that at the end, you could say there's a fail. So I'm going to do one more thing with this effect. What I'm going to say is I'm going to add some 3D text. Little brain hack. That's the wrong word. What you can do is actually put in 3D text into a 2D scene, by the way. That's something I figured out recently. So let's put in fail here. Or let's put timeout. That's what I put in the other effect. And maybe just make it a fun font. Okay, cool. Oh yeah, that's a fun font. Let's do it. So I'm going to call this fail. And by default, you can't fail. So I'm going to make that invisible to begin with. And then I'm going to say, if it gets to the end, so the timer completes before you've gotten to a corner, so 10 seconds and you failed, then we're going to set visibility. And we're going to set the visibility of the fail text to true. So now, hopefully we don't win here, so we can test it works, because it would suck if you just won. And we could test our new fail text. Don't hit the corner. Oh, phew. Okay, cool. And it should. There we go. Timeout. And equally, we could add a winning text. So we can say, and that one also shouldn't be on by default. So we just copy and paste and we put win. And we're going to set the visibility of win if down here you hit the corner. So we're going to put a sequence in here between. So we hit the corner, it pauses the timer, but also we want to set the visibility of the win text. So let's rename this to win. We've already called it, said the text is win. And so we're going to say that's on. And now I've got a genuine challenge of trying to hit a corner. We did it. Oh, I didn't set the win thing. Oh, we just got a corner and I didn't capture the. Let's reset that again. Okay, that's going too far that way. Come on now. Get a corner. Maybe at this point we set our tolerance really easy. This is probably. Oh, we did it. We hit a corner. We hit a corner and it says win. Hopefully you can see that. That's brilliant. And then the last thing I want to talk about with this effect before, if we have time, we move over to the circle one, is tolerance. The tolerance is how hard it is. If we made this 0.3, chances are we'd win really easily. Yeah, we just won with like no effort. If we make it 0.49, that means that it's only the tiniest corner that you can hit. And I made a mistake in this game. So you can see that's really, really difficult compared. It'll just keep going. So I'm going to pause it. What I did is I made it too easy. I thought no one's going to want to play this for too long. I'm going to make it like fairly easy so you can get a corner quite easily. And I published the effect and like a quarter of people were winning. And that kind of makes it boring because loads of people see each other winning. They're like, yeah, I got a better score. So the next day, I think maybe even the same day, I was like, okay, too many people are doing well here. I'm going to set the tolerance higher. I think I made it in the end. For me, I made it something like 4-6. And this means that it's quite difficult now. And so only maybe 1 in 20 people who played it were managing. And that meant there was a challenge. Suddenly, the TikTok games are going, this is impossible, but can you do it? And they're trying it loads of times and they're getting it once. And suddenly, users shot up. Way more people started using it just because of this small tweak. And I find that really interesting. And so that's why for some of my effect, I released different versions with different difficulties to see which do best. And this is just a really good example of that, where you can just tweak the tolerance to make it easier or harder. And I always recommend, it's so easy to just tweak a couple numbers and then resubmit the effect. It's so easy to do that. I recommend you give it a go. And it honestly, that tiny difference in just 2 numbers that took no time for me to change and resubmit the effect as an update made a massive difference to how people use the effect. And I think that's really, really cool. And just, yeah, very cool.
That's a great tip. Thanks for sharing. Okay, guys.
All good. So do we have...
Yes, we will have time to continue with the second part of the demo. But before we go on there, I want to give you guys our challenge for today. You guys might know that we have a little mission to check that you've been watching the stream and actively participating. Today's mini challenge would be to publish a video using Jono's DVD effect. So take a video of yourself try playing with the effect and post it to our forums. You know where to find us. It's week 3 now. I'm sure you guys have been posting and participating in the mini challenge. If you guys haven't, please check it out, but go to community.effecthouse.com and under the crash course section, you should be able to find today's session here, Master Tips from Jonathan. Today, go try this DVD effect, publish a video, and link it over there so we can all see if you made it. And if you want to do even more, make your a similar version of this, but it doesn't have to be, you know, the DVD corner bouncing. Of course, don't take the idea, but you can use the same mechanism, like bouncing bunny off of a moon in anti-gravity or something. So use the idea creatively, but the mini quest is to post a video. Okay, back to you, Jonathan. Oh, and before moving on, I just wanted to say that in the last course with Runza on Monday, he tried to recreate one of your famous effects. Oh, guys, I thought I was showing you guys my screen share the entire time, and I was talking and showing you the forms, but I wasn't. Silly, silly me. Here you go. Community.effecthouse.com. Go to the crash course section, and you should be able to find it right here. Master Tips from Jonathan. But here on this session, we try to recreate one of Jonathan's very famous effects that he even showed at GDC. And this was my approach. I went the 2D route, and I was just telling them how I used photo editing software to make this version. And whenever you click on the screen, it would change because it's in an image array. And how this was Runza's approach. and he made this Minecraft looking hammer and used transit by time. I think if he had more time to complete the game, that would have been so fun. But what do you think? Do you think it lived up to the standards, or according to your wording, this is rubbish? Completely wrong.
No, I don't think there's any wrong approach, really.
Ah.
If it works, it's brilliant. There are caveats to that. And the caveats are if you do something that's really not performant and makes people's devices really warm, and then it's not nice to use and you get a low frame rate. Nowadays, Effect House doesn't let you do that. And there's a really lovely test performance button, which everyone should be using before they submit their effect. Otherwise, they may be disappointed because they use something really silly in their effect or something really big and crazy. I love those, by the way. Most of my effects, well, many of my effects are there to just try and push the limits of what you can do in effect. So it's worth doing, but you've got to be cognizant of those. That's a fancy word, isn't it? You be aware of those things. So do we have time to do a circly thing?
Guys, this was the mandatory portion. If you are interested in learning more about the circle portion, stay on. We're going to continue with the live. We're going strong. So back to Jono's screen. I'm going to transition over.
Oh my God, we're at like an hour. And I'm like,
I just had so much fun listening to you and talking to you. I didn't even know how the hour went by.
That's mad, isn't it? All right, well, we'll be super quick. I think we can make an effect quite quickly with the circle thing. This is for the stickers, the people who are really into it. You're getting it. You're down with the math nodes. Let's go. This stuff's cool. Okay, so let's create a new project. We'll save the current one probably, just in case that's useful later on for anyone. Okay, I'm gonna go through this. I'm not going to explain too much. We're going to see what happens. The first thing we want to do for drawing, I should show you the effect first, shouldn't I? I should. Here it is.
Jono, we got lots of time. All I have is time. You don't have to speed through it. It's okay. Take your time. People love listening to you. Haley actually said, oh my gosh, I hope Effect House might one day even try a 24-hour stream. And then we would need to make you stream for 6 hours. She says, I could watch his work all day.
I do. There have been days where potentially unhealthily I've not really slept. I've just started in the morning, weekend, and I've just made effects and kind of realized that it's like 4 a.m. now. So I should be streaming.
Oh my gosh, you're in the zone. You should
fun.
definitely be an effects streamer. Like, I would watch you all the time.
Yeah, that's quite fun. I watch a bunch of developers on all sorts of streaming platforms doing this. Anyway, so this is the effect that we're going to recreate now in our second hour. Basically, you've got to try and draw a circle, and you start off with 100% because it's 100% so far, and you go all the way around. And if your circle is perfectly round, you get 100%. It's practically impossible to do that. So I think I've only seen someone get like 98 after many tries. But we're going to basically recreate this, and it tells you your score at the end, and you can try again. Pretty simple stuff. Let's make our own version of it. Now, back when this was made, we didn't have the drawing texture. I had to make my own way to draw, and you can see there may have been some technical challenges with it. Let's export, get out of there, and let's begin. So first of all, let's add an object. The first thing I want to do is the easy bit. It wasn't when I made it, but it's easy now. The screen drawing texture. And look at that. Already, we can draw on the screen. This took me hours before.
Life is so unfair. Now, one click.
Yeah. Oh, and I'll just change the brush size, shall I? I won't make a ton of new materials. Here we go. The worst circle in the world. Either way, we can now draw. This is a real win. The only problem is this is happening every time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be I could go into draw on touch, and I've made my own versions of this node, but I'm going to use the basic one. So this is easier to follow along. I'm going to say touch, finger touch. I'm going to say when it starts, I'm going to clear the canvas. And that just means that when I draw something like this, it's there, but the moment I start drawing a new one, the last one disappears because I've started touching the screen again. That kind of makes sense, I think. I think that makes sense. Great. Okay, cool. So that's controlling our start of touch. I'm going to use a sequence node on there just because I love sequences, because we can again use that for the future. This is like the default cube. I never keep these. Okay, cool. What do we want to do next? Let's start with a score. So I'm going to need some text. Let's bring in some 3D text. But we're going to put that in the 2D world. We actually don't need any 3D. We can save some processing by removing our lights and that whole 3D scene. We can just keep our 2D scene. And I'm going to call this score percentage. Like that. Nicely done. And the default text will be 100% because you start at 100%. That all makes sense. And I'm going to drag that up our screen a little bit so it's at the top there and not in the way. Although maybe there's something fun in it being in the middle. No, there isn't. Your finger would be in the way and you couldn't see the score you're getting. And let's, because we're being creative here, let's choose a cool typewriter font. I love the typewriter font. Let's add a, what should we add? Like an outline. I like the outline. Can we get an outline? We can get an outline, and we can drastically increase the size, which just makes it easier on everyone watching on the stream as well. Cool. Life is looking great. We're happy to say we've done barely anything, but we're already half the way there. So we can draw a circle, and it's 100%. So we're winning even if we do the worst circle in the world. That's not ideal. We've got to build some logic. So what is the logic here? Let's go back to our drawing board. Not metaphorically, because this is a new effect now. Hey, okay, so the logic is we've got a dot in the center, and we haven't added the dot in the center. We should add a dot in the center, but we all understand the concept of a dot in the center. And if we drew a circle like this, and we started here, a perfect circle, I'm setting myself up here, would be more like this. That's a good circle. But the one here is pretty bad. So here we start at 100%. But like by the time you've gotten here, this is way longer than this distance. So this distance, let's call this distance 1. And this distance, that's like 2.5 times that. And so this is, I would say, a half good circle, or a less than half. So what's 100 divided by 2.5 for the difference between them, or 1.5, because there's 1.5 difference because you added 1.5. So we went from a distance of 1, which was perfect. It would have been perfect if they stayed 1 the whole way around. But because it went imperfect and it went way too big around the middle, that's 2.5. So 1 minus 2.5 equals 1.5. And let's call that 1.5 errorness. Probably a better word for that if math people know it, but that's how badly we've done. That's awful. So 100 divided by 1.5 is, and I should work this out, 1.5, 66%. So now this is a 66% quality circle. So that's pretty good. So we've got to work out a way of doing this. So first of all, the first thing we need to do is calculate when you first touch your finger on the screen, the first time when you're right here, we need to save the distance. So we need to on touch, save the distance from the middle of the screen. Distance from middle. So it's this line here. I bet we've got different colors that I've not been utilizing. Distance. Save the distance the moment you touch. And then every frame that you move your finger, we need to keep updating. So we need to then say, okay, how far are you right now from that distance? And if you're really far from it, then you're doing badly. If you're close to it, you're doing well. And we can update the score as you go. Let's see how we do that. We're back here. I know some people use all, anyway, right? Okay, cool. So on start, let's make ourselves a variable. I hope we all know what variables do. They're really useful. You can save anything to them. You can save textures to them. You can save numbers to them. You can save vectors to them, and they just stay there forever until you change them into something else. They're really useful. So let's call this starting distance. Okay. Set variable. So on the first tap, so this is the tap, let's get rid of the variables for just a second. So on the first tap, so when they start tapping, we clear the canvas so that they can draw a circle for them. That's cool. But we also set our starting distance, and the distance is between the middle and where they're currently drawing. And so we need to add like a middle. So right now I'm going to add a 2D screen image. I'm going to use a white texture on that. Again, I quite like doing this kind of approach. So a white texture like that, and I'm going to draw mode. I'm going to put an ellipse, and I'm going to say that it's 100 by 100, and it's right in the middle. So now we have a circle that you can draw around, and let's make it a cool color like purple. Pink. Can we do pink? I love pink. Pink. I love pink. Really, we've got a pink circle. We're winning. Okay, cool. So let's now take the distance between where you've tapped. So let's put in, so we're taking our current position where the finger is right now on the screen, distance. And we want the distance between that and the middle of the screen. And what's lucky for us is in screen coordinates, that's 0.5. That's the middle of the screen. We can actually experiment with that. We can touch the screen. And if you watch, I'm touching right now. I know you can't quite see, but I'm at the left of the screen. Oh, you can, because I'm drawing a line. And now at the right of the screen, you can see the X value down there is 0.9 or 1. It should be like all the way. So I'm going between that. And up and down, Y is 1 at the top and Y is 0 when I'm drawing at the bottom. So that's great, because it means in the middle up here, I'm like around 0.5. Okay, cool. So we can take the distance and we can store that in our starting distance. So now we look in here and I begin drawing, it's set. Maybe we can look at the peak at that. Now, if I start here and draw, whenever I draw, this remains at that first starting distance. So wherever I was 0.307 away from the center when I started drawing. If I go really close to the center, I'm only 0.09. If I go really far away, worst circle ever, I'm 0.591 away from the center. That's really useful information for us, because we can compare it then against every position after that. Let's make a new variable, and let's call our new variable the distance between the starting distance, or let's call it erroneous, because that's what we called it before. Erroneous between start and current finger position. That's a really long variable. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I make super long variables. So if I'm sharing a project or I'm opening it up the next day when my brain doesn't remember what I was doing because I was going really quickly, then I know what it is, because this is erroneous between the start, the first time we get the distance here, and where it is currently. And that's like how bad or how well we're doing. And when do we want to set that? We want to set that as long as the person has their finger down. So on the finger touch node, there's a really great thing here called stay. Stay operates anytime the finger's on the screen. Every frame it goes as long as the finger's on the screen. Very useful stuff going on there. So let's do another sequence. Whack that in here. And so now we're going to set this. What do we want to set it to? Well, we want to set it to, how would we do that? We would set it to the distance between, actually, I don't think you can do distance in, okay, we can subtract our starting distance. So that's here. That's the distance we set right when we started. So I'm going to subtract, and I'm going to subtract the current distance. Okay, so I'm going to do another distance node. Actually, no, we can probably use the same one. Yeah, we can use the same one. And I'm going to do that here. So we're subtracting the distance at the start to what it is now, and we're setting our erroneous between. So let's look at what that is as we go and use the peak node. So what should happen is, if we're drawing a circle here and we go wildly out, like really bad, but we go much further out, you can see that it's like minus 0.1. So we're like minus 0.5, 0.1 away from where we started. Let's do that again. You go all the way up here, you're like minus 0.3. And if you go inwards, now you're like 0.1. So you're really far off that kind of perfect circle line. So this is really useful. And now we're going to use the same node I showed you earlier. Because we can go -2 because we're out and +1 because we're in, let's make it so it's always positive. So let's absolute this. And now if I peak this absolute, now we'll see that essentially the further in or out we go, the higher that number goes. I'm going to zoom in that even more. So let's start that again. Far out, it's like 0.2. Far in, and it's like 0.1. So we can see that as long as I'm going out, I'm failing. Okay, cool. But we don't want it to, like right now, the problem with this is that if I started like here and I went all the way around the circle, and let's say I did this really bad circle. Now that's a terrible circle. And let's say I came back here, it still looks like it's pretty good. It's not that far, even though this happened. So we don't want that. And so instead what we're going to do is only save the number, only save the errorness if it's gotten worse than before. Okay, so let's take this. Let's delete those. Oh no, I didn't mean to delete all of those. Let's delete these afterwards. That was just showing things. Let's absolute this. And now let's say if we say, let's say on here, instead of it setting it every frame, we say if the current errorness is greater than the last greaterness. So all of the greaterness so far, so the errorness. So get that. So if the current errorness is worse, or is greater than, sorry, it's like more errorness than ever before, then we will set it to the new errorness. So let's try and work that out. So we put that in here if. So basically what happens is when the user starts drawing, we set the distance between where they're drawing and the middle point. And as they go, every time that they get, if they keep doing really good, nothing will happen. If they go out, the errorness will start happening. So we can go here and we can see that we're doing all right generally. But look, if we go out, then the errorness will be different and it'll set it. So right now, nothing's happening. Right, brilliant. So that's all good. And now, so that's greater than that. Now we can say, we can take our errorness and update our percentage. So how do we do that? Well, I'm going to take our percentage, our text, set text. And what do we need? We need the number there and we need the percentage. So let's do that first with append string, I think it's called. So that's where we can combine strings. So the last one's going to be a percent. And this one we want to be our number, so 100%. Cool. And we're going to say that every time the errorness changes, how bad or good you're doing, we'll put that in there. So 100%. But we need it to be a dynamic 100%. So what will we do? We'll take the errorness and we'll start with 100. So 100 is the top score. So that's good. And then as your errorness gets worse, we subtract it from 100. Because if you do perfectly, it'll stay at 100. If you go off a bit, it'll subtract it from 100. But right now, our errorness doesn't go up very far. You can see here. Let's put that in here. You can see our errorness like goes to maybe 0.2, and that's barely anything compared to 100. So let's first multiply. Let's go in here, multiply by like 40. And put that in there. So 100 minus errorness, that's times by like 40. And now we can put this into here. Oh, but we can't. We need the data convert. That automatically popped up. That's useful. And so we're turning our number into errorness. So let's try this out. And already we can see that as I do really badly, then like I'm getting a worse score. So let's start here. Let's do quite well for a bit. And now let's go like, oh no, we're not doing great. Or like, yeah, really bad. And then it's going up like that. Okay, cool. Let's just check everything's working here. Okay, so that's subtracting from that. That's good. And it's absolute. So it's always positive. And if that is greater than that, then that's all good. Yeah. So now we should find, if we start again like that, that as we get worse, our score goes down, right? If we go all the way up here, our score would go really bad. And it should be that as you go inwards as well, your score will do bad. And as you go outwards, your score will do bad. Whereas if we do quite a good circle like this, we get quite a good score. That's great. This is basically how I left the game when I did it. That was literally it. It's as simple as that.
Jono,
Is
we are
making it
getting
like
a
that.
question by Florentia.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
asking why you multiply it to 40. Is it a random number?
Yeah, so basically we're really choosing, because if we made this, for example, this is like errorness. Let's look at our errorness score. So this is how bad we're doing. Let's experiment what we get. So if I start here and I go all the way up here, that's clearly an awful circle. So now we know that this corner up here, the worst errorness, is the worst bit of the circle we did, was 1.9. If I were to subtract 1.9 from 100, and we could do that, so we can do that, subtract from 100. Now, your circle, even if you do terribly, we're only subtracting like 1.9, I think I showed you. And so your circle always looks really good. And so I was like, 40 seems like a good amount to lose if you do badly. So it's just a guess. But we could also make it almost memey and put 300. And now if you do badly, you can get -%.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious.
And maybe that's more funny. Yeah, so maybe we have an effect where...
I think if you do it like that, a lot of people would be like, what's the worst score I can get with this effect?
Indeed. And yeah, that could certainly be. And people made all sorts of shapes with it as well. And to see what those shapes scores might be, slightly questionable. And what we could also do is say, okay, cool. So we've got our 100%. Let's do a remap. Oh, I love remap. It's like a lerp, but almost as powerful. It's a bit bigger, a bit more clunky, but it's very cool. So we can say if it's a 0, actually, do you know what? I don't want to do it like that. I'm going to say a normalize from value. So I'm going to say normalize to range. And what I'm going to do is say if it's 0, we want a 0. If it's 100, we want a 1. So this turns, you remember the number that goes into a lerp? This turns any number that you want, any range, into a lerpable number. So now we can whack this into a lerp. So that's lerpable numbers between 0 and 1. They're the best numbers. And we can turn this into a color. So we can say if you've got 0%, you're doing badly. That's like a red. But if you're doing quite well, let's make that a green. And so now every frame, after we've set the text, let's also set its color. So let's go here, set color. So after this, set color, and I'm going to drag that in here. So now it should be that as we go, if we do badly, it goes red, really badly. And so we get really red. But if we do pretty well the whole time, it'll just stay green or orange. I didn't do very well. I got 50%. But you get the point, right? So now I've turned our score also into the color of the font. So you can kind of, it's a bit more interaction to see how you're doing. And honestly, that's literally the whole effect. This is all you need for an effect that a ton of people will use and just want to try and do the best that they can in making an effect. And so you can like go, we can like make it look a little fancy. We could potentially add a little glow or something to our text. That's quite fun. Maybe like a shadow. That always works quite nicely, and make that like a purple or something like that. And we could potentially, for our screen drawing, we could like make it a little bit bigger. We could do all sorts of, we could make it a lower opacity so you can see the person through it. You could do loads and loads of things to make it fun. You could make a version where we flip X, and now as you draw, it draws the opposite direction. It makes it even harder. So you could do loads of things with that, just to like make your own version of the game. You could change the color of the pen, which is all built in now with this amazing node that appears when you create a screen drawing from up here. So add object 2D screen drawing. It does it all for you. And you can simply select whatever brush color. So we can make it pink just for fun. And now look at that. That's so cool. You could even, and this is just one last thing, remember when we changed the color of the text? There's no reason we can't change the color of the screen drawing as well. Let's give that a go. I think it'll work. So we're going to put exactly the same color node into there. And now, look at that. The line itself changed the color. I know, and that works because, yeah, I know, that's so fancy. It's this looks even better than the first version I made. I prefer this. This is a way better game. Now, in the real version I made a thing where it would check if you made it all the way around the circle. Basically, I just checked, did you go to the top left? Did you go to the top right? Did you go to the bottom right? Bottom left? And if you did all of those, then you completed the circle. And that was literally the only stuff I put in. But you don't even need that, to be honest, because this works just fine. People can tell when you've done a circle. And that's so much fun. We could potentially reset our errorness every time someone starts drawing. That's one thing I do, because right now, if I draw like this, and then I do another one, it stays at 78. And I want it to reset to 100 when you start drawing. So let's do that. So on start drawing, set this to 0. And now it should be every time we start, it starts at 100 again. And it does. I think that's it. That's it. We've made the circle game and it was so much fun.
Woohoo! That looks so good. You know what I was thinking?
Brilliant.
Even if you make it with, if you add some cool things with Material Editor, you could probably do it so that when it's closer to the screen, it's, or like when you're off the thing, it is red, but the areas that are within the range will also appear green instead of the whole line changing. So maybe that's something that we can cover in another class. That would be absolutely insane. But I think people are loving it.
Oh,
Jono.
You're not going to let me do it now.
Can you do it? Can you whip it? Whip it up in the spot?
Yeah, we can do it super quick.
Okay,
Yeah. That's a great idea. I love ideas like that.
Time is a modern construct.
Let's do it quick.
What even is time? I don't know. We're just gonna go.
What is time? Yeah, you're right.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Let's give it a second. We've made our material. And I'm going to call this our drawing. Okay, cool. So into our drawing, we first of all need the drawing that someone's done. That's coming in as a texture. So let's call this drawing in. I'm going to take that and I'm going to whack this into the sampler, 2D texture sampler. And we're going to literally put that into our shader. Let's see how we do that. So we want to put it into a combine. So combine, and we're going to make it a vector 4. So we've got RGB, red, green, blue, and then at the bottom we've got our alpha channel. So that's what our drawing is right now. And if I do this, set it like this, set our drawing to normal, so our blend mode to normal, so transparency is possible. Now we can change our screen drawing to use this material. Now we won't see any text, any drawing yet. And that's because, first of all, we need to go into our drawing and we need to change how this all works in here. So we need to say that we set our drawing and we're going to set it right here. So we're going to take, so right now it's setting the last image we had, but now we want to set it to the new material. So I'm going to literally take this node up here, and instead of it going to set image, I'm going to set it to our new materials texture that we made, which was the drawing in. And we're going to do the same with this node down here. So instead of that going to the drawing, we're going to set it there. And then we set here, set that here. And now we can actually get rid of this. We don't need that anymore, which means we also don't need one of these inputs. I don't see it, so we're not going to, oh, here, we can get rid of those, and therefore we can get rid of that. Doesn't matter. Okay, cool. So now when we're drawing, instead of saving it to the last image, we're saving it to our new drawing material. So that's a good start. And now, hopefully, texture 2D, hopefully we can get a some hope of a drawing. I'm not seeing that appear. Oh yeah, that's because we're not putting in our UV map. We need our texture coordinates. So let's put them in there. And now we can see we're getting this. Oh, but that's not ideal. So screen drawing, and we need to make it stretch to the height of the window. So now, look at that. We're getting exactly the same result again, but now it's running through our texture. So now what we want to do is get a gradient from the center where it's red right in the center, it's red right in the middle, but it's green around like the ring where you're drawing your circle. So how would we do that? Well, we take the current texture coordinate, we get its distance from 0.5, which is the middle of the screen, if we remember from earlier. And let's see how that looks when I just put that into our texture now. We can kind of get an idea of how that looks. We can see that if I draw lots of stuff, it's in the center, it's kind of dark, and on the outside, it's kind of like white. So now what we want to do is get a distance from that value. So that's another distance. Let's do that distance. And we're going to do this distance from 0.25, I think. And now if we put these in here, we should get like a, wait, that for, I'm going very fast. And we get this. Now we should see a kind of ring. I can actually fake this right now. I can put this like here. So it's always going to be alpha, and we can kind of see what we've made. And now there's this kind of ring thing, which is kind of interesting, right? That we've now got like this ring in the middle, and we want that ring to be green in a minute, and it will be green in a minute. And it's not circular. That's kind of a problem. So let's do a quick fix for that now. And we can say 0.1, and we can say 1.3. That's kind of circular. 1.4. It's a bit more circular. 1.7. That's very circular. And now we're going to add. We want to bring it up the screen a little bit. And again, this is for your shader nerds out there. Oh, I went the wrong direction. Let's say 0.3. And it'll be 0.35 because that's half of 0.7. And now we've got a pretty good ring. So what do we do now? Well, we don't want a black ring in the center like that. So instead, we want to lerp again. I love lerp. Everyone should love lerp. And what we want to do is lerp from a green. So let's get a vector 3 in here. And let's put it in there. Cool. And we're going to go from a green, so red, green. We're going to make green 1, and we're going to make the rest red. So we want a red. So that's red, green, blue. Red is 1. The rest is 0. So it's going to be red. And now what we can do is split this out, and we can put red into here, green into here, blue into here, and put our drawing into here. And now as we draw, it's red up there, green in the middle, and look at that. So it's red as you go to the outside, and like kind of getting red in the middle. And you can kind of see now that doesn't seem as obvious to me as I'd quite like. So let's find a way to multiply that just a little bit. Let's maybe say distance from 0.2, or we could say distance from point like that. And now we can see that as in the middle, it's like kind of more yellow. So we can actually make that far more pronounced. We could put like a 5 there. And you can say it's like yellow in the middle, green in the middle, and then it goes yellow again outside. So you know when you're doing a good circle here, but if you go too far in, it goes like yellowy. And so we can make this even more pronounced like this, where it goes like basically like, yeah. And so here we can see there's like a green line. So that's really pronounced. So let's do that like that and make that 1. And that is how I would do this, like that. So you get green in the middle, you get like a yellow out there, and you get a yellow out there as well. And I think that's kind of the way that I'd do that.
That is
Yeah.
amazing that you were able to whip that from the spot. I think it would be super, super clear if it was like red, and it might help people get higher scores.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, maybe I need to. This is where we get to experimentation. But yeah, like I think maybe like a 2 or like a 0.5, maybe a 0.3.
Oh my
Maybe a
gosh, people are
0.1.
saying live, love, lerp, and multiply.
Oh, live, laugh, love. Yeah, I need that sign. Okay, so now look at that. It's pretty red in the center, but it's green out here where you want to make your circle where you started. So that's green, and then it's also like red out here as well. So I could make it like more interesting, but I think that's looking pretty good, and you can kind of get how that works. So basically what we're doing is saying if you're far from the center, then we basically want to make it red. So we lerp to a red. Otherwise, it's a green everywhere else. And then we take the center of that, so we get a ring around the center of the center, which is kind of mad to think about, but it works if you think about it for a long time. And yeah, that's our effect. I think it's looking pretty cool. I prefer this to the one I made. I think it would probably perform better. And so now, could you figure out, for example, how to make square version? Yeah, the first one did all right, but I think that like when it's like this, I don't know, it feels a bit more seamless and fun.
Jono, you
Whereas I
gotta
think my
publish
first
this.
one,
Publish this right now, and the effect that you made on the stream, I love it.
Yeah, okay, let's give it a go. I will do that. In fact, I won't waste everyone's time with that. I'll do that though. But
should I change the quest to this effect? People go find this and use this new effect instead of the DVD one?
I mean, either one could work. I don't know when this one will come out. Let's put submit new effect.
Uh-huh.
Our effect icon. What should we make it? Let's upload an image.
Guys, if you are still here and you
really
wanna boost and help Jono and publish and get this effect going, definitely use this effect. So I guess if you use upload with this video, we will also see that you've attended till the very end. Jono, you don't have to publish right now. You can, if you want, you can get like a more polished screen and stuff. But while Jono's working on that, I'm gonna show you my cheeky way that I used to cheat the system. Look at this. This is from Jono's original video. I remember when
this is cheating.
I remember when I posted this, Jono was like, "This is cheating. This is not good. Like, hey, I'm offended."
Oh dear, that is cheeky.
So, guys, thank you so much for being with us. This live is almost getting to 2 hours, but we're so glad that you were able to make it all the way through. An amazing tutorial by Jonathan. He's taught us so much, and he's like the most like calming, eloquent, like soft voice, and he explains everything in such great detail, super easy to understand. So I feel like I was inspired and I learned a lot. So thank you everyone for attending. Make sure to go to the forums and post a video using either the DVD effect or this new effect. So go check that out. But thank you guys. Thank you, Jono. Any final words before we depart?
Yeah, I'm sorry it took so long, but I do recommend learning what all of the nodes do. On these last streams, I've learned new nodes, and I'm whacking many down. In fact, I'd say at the peak, I'm laying nodes down at maybe one every 3, 5, 10 seconds. And some of my node networks are huge, and I wake up in the morning and I look at it and I'm like, I don't know half of this, but it works somehow. And so I recommend checking them out, working out what you can do, because often there's a node that does the whole thing you wanted. Like when I figured out that you could literally just add a drawing thing and you can draw on the screen straight away. Stuff like that exists, and it's so powerful. Even just the effect where someone can draw and maybe you can tap to change the color. That's a great effect, and you can do it just like that. And the other thing is I'm on Discord, and we're all on Discord, and there's an amazing community on Discord. I'm sure everyone here is aware of it, but definitely reach out there and definitely use the forums, and people like myself would be so happy to help. I love like helping people learn new things and make effects, so always happy to help. Yeah.
I gotta put him on the stream more. I feel like he could just talk for hours and it would all be super entertaining and super knowledgeable. Everybody's saying it's amazing. Thank you so much. Jonathan's teaching is top notch. It helps a lot. The best teacher. Yes, is a great teacher. Great presentation. Well spoken. Pacing is great. The best, Jonathan. So thank you so much for coming, and everyone to viewing. We can do this because you guys are here watching, interacting with us, asking questions. So thank you so much again, guys. And for the next speaker, it will be Joe, and you guys know that Joe has created so many cool effects, so definitely come see Joe speak. It will be also filled with amazing, super fun, and very, very advanced gaming content, so don't forget to come back to our show. But thank you, everyone. We are going to log off now, but see you again on Friday. Bye bye, guys. Bye, Jana.
Bye bye.